All right, my first ever story time video. If you clicked on this video, thank you, thank you, thank you for watching it. I've been feeling this calling to start doing little storytelling, just little life experiences that help me become the person that I am today. I'm going to rewind, basically talk about the leap of faith that I took in my early 20s. I'm now 30 years old. It can be difficult to take a leap of faith. You don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of up in the air. But when you believe in yourself, you do it. Even if you fail, you still do it. So I'm going to take us back to my early 20s. I was about 21. Our oldest son, Kamari, I gave birth to him at 18 years old. 2 months after I graduated high school is when he was born. I became a single mom or a single parent at 20 years old, and I got my own apartment. I worked at a daycare because I always knew I wanted to teach. I just didn't know. I knew the steps I needed. Obviously, I needed to go to school, but I just didn't know when that would be. But that was something that I dreamed of. Like, my passion was so deep for education, and it still is, and teaching kids, that I wanted to get to that point by any means necessary. So to begin with, it was really hard to find a full-time job. I don't know why. It's like they want you to have experience, but it's like, how can you get experience if you won't give me the job? But anyway, I worked at a daycare for almost 3 years in my early 20s. I was a daycare teacher. I ended up leaving that job when I was 21. No, so I started there at, when did I start there? I started there at 19, and then I left when I was 21. And I ended up going to Boy Scouts of America to work. Now, that job had nothing to do with the career choice that I had chosen. And I was in college. I was in college for elementary education. I was just trying to get my foot in the door to working with kids. So that's the whole reason why I worked at the daycare. But it just came a time where I felt like I don't want to be changing diapers for the rest of my life. Like, no offense to daycare teachers. You guys are great. A lot of you, not all of you. But that wasn't something that I saw for my life. So in order to get out of the daycare, I just took basically the first job that hired me, which was Boy Scouts of America. And I stayed there for 2 weeks and ended up leaving. I did not have a job lined up. I just quit. And I'm not saying that's something that you should do. Don't do that. At least put in a notice. But I didn't have the courage to let them know that I wasn't going to come back. So I ended up leaving, and I went to another daycare that was about 40 minutes away from my house. And the issue there was my son was only 3 at the time, and he was not in school yet, but he couldn't go to this daycare because there was a wait list, and I would have had to pay and all these things. So one of my old coworkers from the daycare that I worked at actually started like babysitting. So Kamari, my oldest son, he would go to her during the week while I was at work. I worked at this next daycare that was 40 minutes away from my house. I worked there for 4 days, and let me tell you why. During this time, the year was 2016, and during this time, I still wanted to be in a school. Like, I felt the need, that urge, that want to be in a school, like getting that experience that I need to be a teacher. Because mind you, I'm still in college at this time. I'm still in college. I'm still taking care of my son. But I'm back at a daycare, and it felt like I was going backwards. Like, that's what my mind was telling me. You're going backwards. Why are you working at this daycare? So I'm applying to jobs. I'm applying to positions at schools. Mind you, I'm still at this daycare that's 40 minutes away from my house. I had only worked there for 4 days. I hated it. Every minute, every second of being there. But I just had to push through because it's like I gotta pay my bills. I have a child to raise. I have to take care of myself. All these different things. It came a point, it was Thursday, because I worked there for 4 days, from Monday to Thursday. And on that Thursday, I went on my lunch break. Now, the good thing about this daycare was that we got an hour lunch break. So on my lunch break, the kids were napping, and my co-teacher, she had just came back from her lunch break. Now it was my time to go on my lunch break, and I had made that decision right then and there that I wasn't coming back. Now again, that wasn't the best thing. Like, I could have said something, but when you're young, you're so immature and ignorant to certain things, that you just let it go over your head. So I ended up leaving. She was like, have a good lunch. And I'm thinking in my head, like, oh yeah, I will, because I'm not coming back. I'm going home. But so I ended up leaving the daycare on that Thursday. Now, it took a while for me to get to this point. Like, in my head, I was going back and forth, like, should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? But something was telling me to just go. So I'm on my lunch break, but really I'm headed home. And as soon as I get on the freeway, I see that I had a missed call and I had a voicemail. So my phone is hooked up to the Bluetooth, so I'm able to just do the hands-free. So I dial the voicemail, and who's on my voicemail? The principal from one of the schools that I put an application in for the school district. And I'm like, wait, this is not happening. Like, this is for real. So I'm listening to her voicemail, and she's telling me that she wanted to bring me in for an interview that week. Like, literally that week. She wanted to bring me in for an interview. She got my application, and she said that she thought I could possibly be a good fit as a paraprofessional within their school. Now, this school was a K through 5th grade school. So this is right up my alley. Like, I'm thanking the Lord right now. But then I'm like, wait, it feels like it's too good to be true. What if I don't get it? Like, all this doubt going in my head, all this doubt. I'm like, no, just do it. Like, just do it. I called her back, and my interview was literally the next day, that Friday. So I'm so nervous. I was so nervous. I get up to the school. I'm dressed how I needed to be dressed. I'm super nervous. I meet the principal. Come to find out, she takes me to the conference room where we were going to be doing our interview. I walk around. It was like a cubicle wall. A cubicle wall I had to walk around to get to the conference table. Who's at the table? 6 other individuals. And who's sitting at the head of the table? Me. Because I'm about to be interviewed by these 6 individuals plus the principal, 7 altogether. And at that point, it's like, okay, either I sit my butt down and answer these questions or run out of here as fast as I can, because I was so scared. But I didn't run out of there. I was nervous, and they knew I was nervous, but I think I did pretty good. After I left that interview, I kept thinking, I'm not going to get this job. I'm not going to get this job. I'm not going to get this job. They are not going to give me this job. I want to be in the school, but they're not about to give me this job, right? I kept thinking that. And the following week, guess who I got a call from? The principal. And she told me that she wanted to hire me on, that I will be starting in August. Mind you, it was currently, at that time, it was April, close to May 2016. I was going to be starting in August when all the teachers came back to, get the building ready, classrooms ready. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, if I would have never left that daycare to go home, I wouldn't have never, like, I'm sure she still would have called, but I wouldn't have been able to call her back so fast. Who knows if my interview would have been that next day. Just a lot of things started to feel like it was falling into place, like pieces of a puzzle that were actually fitting. And I feel like that was one of the major times in my life that I took a leap of faith. And even though I doubted myself, I still believed in myself to even go that far, if that makes sense. Here comes August. August comes around. Oh, backtrack. Now, I still didn't have a job. Like, even though I had got that job and I was starting in August, I still had a little chunk of time that I needed to be working, because I still had rent, I still had a child, I still had to buy food, all these things. So I ended up going back to the first daycare that I worked at, but I went to a different center. and I worked there throughout the summer. But I did not let them know that I was going to be leaving until it was time for me to give my 2-week notice. Because it's funny because the manager at the daycare, she wanted to put me in a classroom. And once my 2 weeks, that frame came in line, I was like, oh yeah, I will be, going to the school district, yada, yada, yada. And I told her that I could possibly come back and work in the summers because I had summers off now. I was so excited. I was so happy to be just getting out of the daycare just entirely and going to a school. Like, I'm actually going to be working in a school, in a classroom with a teacher. Although I was a paraprofessional, I still did a lot of teacher things like helping take attendance. Sometimes I would teach the class in the morning time, getting the morning routine started. It was so great because that had been something I have wanted to do all my life pretty much. And I stayed there for 5 years. Like, that school that I worked at, they pretty much helped me and molded me to become the person that I am today. I had a really great mentor. The teacher that I worked with, she was a kindergarten teacher. And it's funny because a year and a half later, she actually left to a different school, and I ended up working with second graders. And I wasn't used to working with older kids yet. Like, it was all new to me. So the moral of the story is you have to take that leap of faith. Even if you think it's not gonna work out, even if you fail, even if you succeed, you just gotta do it. And you gotta bet on yourself, because you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. You gotta believe in yourself. I hope this story makes sense or resonates to some of you. It's my first time telling a story of my life, so I was a little nervous, but I hope it kind of makes sense. And just bet on yourself. Bet on yourself, because no one else will, and people won't believe in you unless you believe in yourself. And show yourself what you're made of and what you're capable of, because you are capable of greatness. So that's all I have for today, you guys. Thanks for listening.